Sarah had been married to Daniel for 9 years. They weren't the kind of couple who fought every day. There were no screaming matches, no dramatic arguments, just two people who had slowly become quieter with each other. But 3 months earlier, something changed. Daniel started coming home late. At first, Sarah didn't think much of it. Work has been busy, he would say. Then he started keeping his phone face down. Whenever Sarah entered the room while he was texting, he would quickly lock the screen, and sometimes he would walk into another room just to answer a phone call. Sarah noticed everything. She just didn't say anything. One night, Daniel came home almost 2 hours late. Sarah was sitting at the kitchen table. "Where were you?" Daniel hesitated. "Just taking care of something." "What kind of something?" He looked at her. "Sarah, I'm tired. Can we talk tomorrow?" Then he walked upstairs. Sarah remained at the table. For the first time in 9 years of marriage, she felt like a stranger in her own home. Over the next few weeks, the distance became worse. Daniel stopped talking about his day. He stopped asking about hers. And every time his phone rang, Sarah felt a knot in her stomach. Then one evening, while Daniel was taking a shower, his phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. Sarah looked at it. She didn't want to, but she did. There was only one message. "She doesn't know yet. Are you sure this is the right thing to do?" Sarah's heart dropped. She read it again, then again. Her hands began shaking. She immediately imagined the worst. There was another woman. There had to be. That night, Daniel came downstairs and found Sarah sitting silently on the couch. "Everything okay?" She looked at him. "Who is she?" Daniel froze. "What?" "The woman you're hiding from me." Daniel's face changed. But instead of explaining, he simply said, "Sarah, please trust me." That was the moment something inside her broke. "Trust you?" Her voice trembled. "You've been lying to me for 3 months. Daniel looked away. "I can't explain yet." Sarah stood up. "Then I don't need to hear anything else." She went upstairs and closed the bedroom door. Daniel stayed downstairs. Neither of them slept that night. The next morning, Sarah made a decision. She wasn't going to ask Daniel anymore. She was going to find out herself. That evening, Daniel left the house around 7. Sarah waited 10 minutes. Then she followed him. Daniel drove across town and stopped outside a small building. Sarah parked across the street. She watched him get out of the car. Then she saw a woman waiting near the entrance. Sarah's heart sank. The woman hugged Daniel. Sarah felt tears fill her eyes. She was ready to drive away. But then she noticed something. The woman was much older than Daniel, and she was crying. Daniel held her hand and walked her inside. Sarah followed them. When she entered the building, she discovered something she never expected. It was a cancer treatment center. Sarah stood completely still. She watched Daniel sitting beside the woman in the waiting room. Then the woman looked at him and said, "Your father would be so proud of you." Sarah's entire body went cold. She had never met this woman. Daniel had never mentioned her. A nurse approached them. "Mrs. Carter, the doctor will see you now." Daniel nodded. Then he noticed Sarah standing in the doorway. His face went pale. "Sarah?" She couldn't speak. Daniel slowly walked toward her. "I can explain." Sarah looked at the woman. "Who is she?" Daniel took a deep breath. "She's my mother." Sarah stared at him. "But you told me your mother died years ago." "She did." Sarah looked confused. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "The woman who died was my stepmother." He paused. "My biological mother left when I was a child. I found her again 6 months ago." Sarah couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Then why did you hide her from me?" Daniel looked down. "Because she has cancer." Sarah's expression changed. "The doctors don't think she has much time." He wiped his eyes. "I wanted to spend whatever time she had left with her." Sarah whispered, "But why didn't you tell me?" Daniel looked directly at her. "Because I was ashamed." "Of what?" "She left me when I was 8. He swallowed hard. "I spent my entire life telling myself I hated her, but when I found out she was sick, I couldn't leave her alone." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Then she remembered the message. "She doesn't know yet. Are you sure this is the right thing to do?" Daniel explained. "The message was from the doctor. He wanted to know if we should tell my mother how serious her condition really is." Sarah looked down. She suddenly remembered every accusation, every suspicious question, every moment she had assumed the worst. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Daniel shook his head. No, should have told you. Sarah stepped closer. Why didn't you ask me to come with you? Daniel smiled sadly. Because I thought you would look at her the way I used to. Sarah reached for his hand. Maybe I would have. She paused. But I would have stayed. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. Sarah hugged him, and for the first time in months, neither of them tried to hide what they were feeling. That evening, Sarah sat beside Daniel's mother. They barely knew each other, but they talked for hours. Before leaving, the woman held Sarah's hand. Thank you for taking care of my son. Sarah smiled through her tears. He's my husband. Then she looked at Daniel, and I don't want him carrying everything alone. On the drive home, neither of them spoke for several minutes. Finally, Daniel said, "Do you still trust me?" Sarah looked at him. Not because you never keep secrets. She smiled softly. Because now I know that when we stop talking, we both start imagining things that aren't true. Daniel reached for her hand, and Sarah realized something that night. Sometimes a marriage doesn't fall apart because love disappears. Sometimes it begins falling apart because two people stop telling each other what they're carrying.